The glowing screen of her phone illuminated Jessica Parker's tired face as her trembling fingers typed out the message. "I can't do this anymore. The baby is coming, and I'm all alone." She pressed send before she could change her mind, then tossed her phone onto the passenger seat. The late October rain pelted against her windshield as she navigated the dark streets of Boston, each contraction growing stronger than the last. Jessica was 28, single and about to become a mother. The father of her child had disappeared months ago, leaving her with nothing but empty promises and a broken heart. What Jessica didn't realize was that in her panic and pain, she had sent the message to the wrong Michael. Instead of reaching her unreliable ex-boyfriend, Michael Donovan, the desperate text had gone to Michael Blackwood, the intimidating CEO of Blackwood Publishing, where she worked as a junior editor. She had saved his contact information after a company-wide email about quarterly goals, never imagining she would accidentally message him during the most vulnerable moment of her life. Michael Blackwood was reviewing quarterly reports in his penthouse when his phone buzzed. The 40-year-old executive frowned at the unfamiliar number and the startling message. He recognized the name, Jessica Parker, a promising editor who had joined the company 8 months ago. Michael had noticed her sharp editing skills and dedication, but they had exchanged fewer than a dozen words in person. He had no idea she was pregnant, much less about to give birth. He stared at the message, unsure how to respond or if he should respond at all. Meanwhile, Jessica pulled into the hospital parking lot, just as another contraction hit, nearly doubling her over the steering wheel. She grabbed her hastily packed overnight bag and hurried through the rain toward the emergency entrance, not bothering to check if her ex had responded. It didn't matter anymore. She had stopped expecting Michael Donovan to step up months ago. The hospital staff rushed Jessica to the maternity ward, her labor progressing faster than expected for a first-time mother. Between contractions, she managed to give the intake nurse her information. "Emergency contact?" the nurse asked. Jessica hesitated. Her parents lived in Arizona and wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. Her closest friend was out of the country on her honeymoon. "There's no one," Jessica admitted, tears mixing with sweat on her face. The nurse gave her a sympathetic pat on the shoulder and continued with the admission process. Back in his penthouse, Michael Blackwood couldn't shake the troubling message from his mind. Something about the raw desperation in those few words bothered him. As CEO of a company with over 300 employees, he prided himself on maintaining a professional distance. But this felt different. This wasn't a work matter. This was a human being in crisis. After 20 minutes of internal debate, he texted back, "Is everything all right? Do you need help?" When no response came, his concern grew. On a hunch, Michael called his assistant, Vanessa, who was working late. "Vanessa, what do you know about Jessica Parker from the editing department?" Bright young editor came highly recommended from Berkeley Publishing. "Keeps to herself mostly, but her work is exceptional," Vanessa replied. "Why do you ask?" "Is she pregnant?" Michael asked bluntly. There was a pause on the line. "Yes, actually. I believe she's due very soon. People have been quietly collecting for a baby gift. Is there a problem?" Michael explained the mysterious text. "I think she might have sent it to me by mistake, but I'm concerned. She mentioned being alone and the baby coming. That doesn't sound good," Vanessa agreed. "Should I try calling her?" "No, I'll handle it," Michael said, already grabbing his keys. "Send me a list of hospitals within 20 miles of the office. If she's in labor, she's likely at one of them." As Michael drove through the rain-slicked streets, Jessica was fighting through the final stages of labor. After 6 grueling hours, the cry of a healthy baby girl filled the delivery room. "She's perfect," the doctor announced, placing the squirming newborn on Jessica's chest. Exhausted, but overwhelmed with love, Jessica stared into her daughter's face. "Hello, Lily," she whispered, the name she had chosen months ago. While Jessica was meeting her daughter for the first time, Michael Blackwood was at the 4th hospital on his list, Boston Memorial. "I'm trying to find information about a Jessica Parker," he told the receptionist. "She's an employee of mine, and I received a concerning message that she might be in labor." The receptionist checked her computer. "Yes, Ms. Parker was admitted earlier this evening. She's in the maternity ward." She looked up at Michael with a smile. "Congratulations. It appears she delivered a healthy baby girl about 30 minutes ago." Michael blinked in surprise. "Thank you, but I'm not—" He stopped himself. "What room is she in?" Room 304, but visiting hours are over except for immediate family, the receptionist said. Michael straightened his tie. I'm her emergency contact, he lied smoothly. The receptionist nodded and buzzed him through. Standing outside room 304, Michael hesitated. What was he doing here? This woman was practically a stranger. He had crossed professional boundaries and inserted himself into an intensely private situation. He was about to turn away when he heard a soft cry from inside the room. Not a baby's cry, but a woman's muffled sob. Before he could reconsider, Michael knocked gently on the door. After a moment, a tired voice called, "Come in." Jessica looked up, expecting a nurse, and froze in shock when Michael Blackwood stepped into her hospital room. Her hair was a mess, her face pale with exhaustion, and her eyes red from crying. The baby was sleeping in a clear bassinet beside her bed. "Mr. Blackwood," Jessica's voice was barely audible. "What are you doing here?" Michael stood awkwardly by the door. "You sent me a text earlier. I think it was meant for someone else, but I was concerned when you didn't respond." Jessica's eyes widened as realization dawned. "Oh my God," she whispered, mortification washing over her. "I'm so sorry. I meant to text my ex." "I figured as much," Michael said gently. "Are you all right? Is there someone I can call for you?" Jessica looked away, embarrassment giving way to another wave of sadness. "No, there's no one. My parents are flying in tomorrow, but—" Her voice trailed off. An uncomfortable silence filled the room until a small whimper came from the bassinet. Jessica reached for her daughter, wincing slightly from the movement. "May I?" Michael asked, gesturing toward the bassinet. After Jessica's surprised nod, he carefully lifted the newborn and handed her to her mother. The tenderness in his movements was unexpected from a man known for his ruthless business acumen. "She's beautiful," Michael said softly. "What's her name?" "Lily," Jessica replied, watching her boss with confusion. "Lily Grace Parker." Michael nodded, seeming to make a decision. "Ms. Parker, Jessica, I know this is unusual, but would you allow me to help? Not as your employer, but as someone who—" He paused, searching for the right words. "As someone who believes no one should be alone at a time like this." Jessica stared at him, trying to reconcile this compassionate man with the intimidating CEO she had glimpsed from afar. Before she could respond, a nurse entered the room. "Oh, you must be the father," the nurse said cheerfully to Michael. "The hospital needs some information for the birth certificate." Jessica opened her mouth to correct the misunderstanding, but Michael caught her eye with a look that somehow conveyed both question and reassurance. In that moment, something shifted between them, an unspoken agreement, a bridge across the chasm of their different lives. Neither of them could have predicted how that mistaken text would change everything, setting in motion events that would intertwine their lives in ways neither had imagined possible. The following morning, Jessica woke to the soft sounds of her daughter's breathing. For a moment she wondered if Michael Blackwood's unexpected visit had been a dream, a bizarre hallucination brought on by exhaustion and hormones. But then she noticed the large arrangement of pink and white flowers on the windowsill that hadn't been there before, along with a small teddy bear wearing a T-shirt that read, "Welcome to the world, Lily." The card simply said, "Call if you need anything. MB," followed by a personal cell phone number. Jessica sank back against her pillows, mortification washing over her again. Of all the people to accidentally text during labor, she had messaged the formidable CEO of Blackwood Publishing, a man known for his exacting standards and cool demeanor. She had only interacted with him directly once during her initial interview, when he had unexpectedly stepped in to ask a few pointed questions about her editorial philosophy. Since then, she had admired him from afar, impressed by his business acumen and the respect he commanded. Her phone buzzed with a text from her parents. Their flight would land in 3 hours. Jessica felt a wave of relief, knowing they would be with her soon, helping her navigate these first overwhelming days of motherhood. She hadn't told them about Michael Donovan's abandonment, instead letting them believe the relationship had simply fizzled out. The truth was too painful, too humiliating to share, that he had coldly informed her he wasn't father material, and suggested taking care of the problem before disappearing from her life completely. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. A nurse entered, followed by Dr. Warner, who had delivered Lily. "Good morning, new mama," Dr. Warner said warmly. "How are you feeling today?" Sore, tired, overwhelmed, Jessica admitted. But good, doctor. Warner checked Jessica's vital signs and examined the incision from the emergency C-section they had performed when Lily's heart rate had suddenly dropped during the final stages of labor. Everything looks good, but I'm a bit concerned about your blood pressure. It's still elevated, Dr. Warner said. I'd like to keep you an extra day for monitoring just to be safe. Jessica nodded, trying to hide her anxiety. Another day in the hospital meant additional costs her insurance might not cover, but her daughter's health came first. Your husband seemed very concerned last night, the doctor continued. He asked about postpartum care and what to expect in these first weeks. It's wonderful to see such an involved father. Jessica opened her mouth to correct the misunderstanding, but hesitated. The thought of explaining the complicated truth was exhausting. Before she could respond, her phone rang, her mother calling from a taxi from the airport. After the doctor left, Jessica tried to feed Lily, struggling to get her to latch properly. Tears of frustration were streaming down her face when another knock came at the door. Jessica hurriedly wiped her eyes. Come in. Michael Blackwood stood in the doorway, looking more casual than she had ever seen him in dark jeans and a grey sweater, rather than his usual impeccable suit. He carried a large gift bag and what appeared to be a takeout container. I hope I'm not intruding, he said, his voice gentler than it ever was at the office. I brought you some real food. Hospital cuisine leaves much to be desired. Jessica stared at him, acutely aware of her disheveled appearance and the tears still damp on her cheeks. You didn't have to do that, she managed. Michael set the food on the rolling table and moved it toward her bed. It's just soup and a sandwich from Westfield Cafe, nothing fancy. He glanced at Lily, who was still fussing at Jessica's breast. Is everything all right? Jessica felt her face flush with embarrassment. I'm having trouble. She won't... Fresh tears threatened. To her surprise, Michael didn't look uncomfortable or flee the room. Instead, he calmly took a seat in the visitor's chair. My sister has 3 children, he said. She struggled with breastfeeding too, especially with her first. The lactation consultant showed her a different position that worked better. Jessica looked at him in disbelief. This was not a conversation she had ever imagined having with her boss. The lactation consultant isn't available until this afternoon. Michael pulled out his phone. Let me call my sister. She might have some advice. Before Jessica could protest, he was speaking to his sister, explaining the situation with surprising ease. After a brief conversation, he turned back to Jessica. She suggests trying the football hold position. May I? He held out his hands for Lily. Something about his calm confidence made Jessica hand over her daughter. Michael carefully cradled Lily, then demonstrated how to position her. Like this, tucked under your arm like a football, with her feet toward your back and her head supported in your hand. Jessica followed his instructions, adjusting until Lily was positioned correctly. To her amazement, Lily latched immediately. It worked, she whispered, looking up at Michael with gratitude. Thank you. Michael smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. My sister will be pleased her advice helped. He turned away slightly to give Jessica privacy while she fed her daughter. Mr. Blackwood, Jessica began hesitantly. Michael, please, he interrupted. I think we're well past formalities at this point. Jessica nodded. Michael, I want to apologize again for the text. And thank you for coming to check on me last night. That was an unexpected. Michael was quiet for a moment. We all need help sometimes, he finally said.